Here are the latest updates on to-go travel passenger requirements as of March 3, 2022. For Butuan City, passengers fully vaccinated will not be required a negative RT-PCR or rapid antigen test result before boarding. Passengers who are partially vaccinated and unvaccinated, including 5 to 17 years old, are still required to present a negative RT-PCR or antigen test result. For passengers bound to Caraga region, Butuan, partially vaccinated passengers may present vaccination card/certificate with travel schedule after 14 days from vaccination date. Unvaccinated passengers are still required of the negative antigen test result taken in the last 48 hours or a negative RT-PCR test result taken within the last 72 hours. For Cataclan passengers, Spass will no longer be required upon entry. For Roxas, partially vaccinated and unvaccinated passengers will no longer be required of the negative RT-PCR test result prior to boarding. Spass will no longer be required upon entry. For passengers bound to Puerto Princesa City, fully vaccinated, partially and unvaccinated passengers will no longer be required of the negative rapid antigen test result before boarding. However, partially and unvaccinated passengers coming from areas/provinces with alert level 2 status, negative rapid antigen test result taken 24 hours prior departure is still required. For fully vaccinated passengers coming from Manila bound to Negros Province, here are the requirements. 1. Electronic or printed copy of the approved travel pass-through permit issued by the Spass Travel Management System approved by the LGU. 2. Verifiable vaccination card/certificate. 3. Register to Stay Safe.ph application. For returning residents partially vaccinated, unvaccinated coming from Manila bound to Negros Province, here are the requirements. 1. Electronic or printed copy of the approved travel pass-through permit issued by the Spass Travel Management System approved by the LGU. 2. Register to Stay Safe.ph application. Rapid antigen test result to be conducted free of charge upon arrival. The province will also honor non-reactive rapid antigen test result prior to travel, valid for 48 hours from date of swab sample extraction. Bacolod City-bound passengers coming from Manila, for fully vaccinated the requirements are: 1. Backtrack ID, 2. Vaccination card. For partially vaccinated and unvaccinated, requirements are: 1. Backtrack ID, 2. Negative rapid antigen. Passengers coming from Bacolod to Manila, registration with Spass is required. Passengers coming from Manila to Iloilo Province, here are the requirements for fully vaccinated. 1. Vaccination certificate. 2. Notice of coordination with destination LGU. 3. Valid ID showing proof of residence. 4. Approved Spass. Passengers coming from Manila to Iloilo Province, here are the requirements for unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. 1. Negative RT-PCR test result within 72 hours before travel except for below 5 years old. 2. Notice of coordination with destination LGU. 3. Valid ID showing proof of residence. 4. Approved Spass. Passengers coming from Manila and Cagayan de Oro to Guimaras Island, here are the requirements for fully vaccinated. 1. Vaccination card. 2. Approved Spass. Passengers coming from Manila and Cagayan de Oro to Guimaras Island, here are the requirements for unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. 1. Negative RT-PCR test result not later than 3 days before the date of travel. 2. Approved Spass. Passengers coming from Manila and Cagayan de Oro to Iloilo City, here are the requirements for fully vaccinated. 1. Vaccination card or a vaccination certificate which may be obtained through https://vaccert.do.gov.ph or a document issued by competent foreign authorities. 2. Valid government-issued ID. Passengers coming from Manila and Cagayan de Oro to Iloilo City, here are the requirements for unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. 1. Valid government-issued ID. 2. Negative RT-PCR test result issued not more than 72 hours from date of travel. Iloilo to Manila passengers are required to register with Spass. Manila to Dumaguete and Zamboanga to Dumaguete fully vaccinated, the requirements are: 1. Original copy of the vaccination card with certification duly issued by the local vaccination center or vaccination certificate from the DECT. 2. Government-issued ID. 3. Photocopy of both the vaccination card with certification duly issued by the local vaccination center or vaccination certificate from the DECT and the government-issued ID, bearing the traveler's contact information number. For unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, the requirements are: 1. Government-issued ID. 2. A non-reactive or negative antigen test result valid within 48 hours after release of the result. 3. Photocopy of both the government-issued ID and the non-reactive or negative antigen test result, together on one page, bearing the traveler's contact information number. For Dumaguete to Manila passengers, registration with Spass is required. For fully vaccinated including children going to Zamboanga coming from Manila and Dumaguete respectively, here are the requirements: 1. Government-issued ID. 2. Vaccination card. And for partially vaccinated, unvaccinated, the requirements are: 1. Government-issued ID. 2. Negative RT-PCR test result within 120 hours, 5 days, from specimen collection. Registration with Spass is required for Zamboanga to Manila passengers. For passengers coming from Manila to Cebu Province, these are the requirements for fully vaccinated, vaccination cards or vaccination certificates. For unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, the documents needed are: 1. Medical certificate certifying they do not exhibit symptoms of COVID-19 disease at the point of origin, issued within 24 hours before arrival in Cebu. 2. Approved Spass. For Cebu City bound, these are the requirements for fully vaccinated: 1. Valid ID or proof of identity bearing holder's picture and signature. 2. Official vaccination card with QR code. For unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, the documents needed are: negative RT-PCR test result taken within the last 72 hours, or negative antigen test result taken within the last 48 hours, or negative saliva test result taken within the last 48 hours. And you also need an approved Spass. For Lapu-Lapu City-bound passengers, travel documents are not required. For Mandaue City-bound, these are the documents needed upon boarding the ship: 1. Valid ID. 2. Certificate of Barangay Residency. 3. Complete address in Mandaue City with contact number. 4. Must pass symptoms screening at ports of entry and exit. For Cebu to Manila bound passengers, registration with Spass is required. For passengers coming from Manila, Iloilo and Bacolod going home to their residence in Cagayan de Oro, these are the requirements needed. 1. Generated travel permit through Spass. 2. Generated approved confirmation letter through OPCORS as mandated by the LGU of Cagayan de Oro Coordination System. 3. QR code through Higala app. 4. Supporting documents. For returning residents, valid ID with address in Cagayan de Oro, any valid proof of residency in Cagayan de Oro. For Cagayan de Oro to Manila passengers, registration with Spass is required. For Manila to Butuan City, fully vaccinated traveler, the requirements are: 1. Any government-issued ID or passport. 2. Vaccination card or certificate of quarantine showing the holder's vaccination status except for minor below 5 years old. For unvaccinated or partially vaccinated travelers, you need these. 1. Any government-issued ID or passport. 2. Negative RT-PCR or antigen test result conducted within 72 hours before departure from the point of the origin, including 5 to 17 years old. For Butuan to Manila, registration with Spass is required. Manila to Ozamis fully vaccinated traveler, the requirements are: 1. Vaccination card. 2. Government-issued identification card with photograph or proper identification. 3. Approved Spass. For unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, you need: 1. Negative antigen test result with 72 hours validity from actual receipt of the result. 2. Government-issued identification card with photograph or proper identification. 3. Approved Spass. Registration with Spass is required for Azamis to Manila-bound passenger.